Now, the French Foreign Ministry held an awards ceremony here in Paris last night. It was about honouring French citizens who helped to promote French ideas and culture around the world. To talk about that, I'm joined by French Senator Joëlle Garriaud-Maylam. Thank you very much for being with us on France 24. And as a head of an association that promotes French culture and the image of France around the world, tell us a bit more about what happened last night.
Well, last night it was the 9th time we were giving prizes. And so we gave prizes to personalities of influence, like, for instance, in the sector of culture, gastronomy, but also science, with our scientific council and Alain Ducasse, for example, for the gastronomic influence around the world. And yes, it was a wonderful event. We had 2 ministers, a former prime minister, a Nobel Prize winner. It was a wonderful evening of celebrating together what makes France liked around the world. I mean, you know, there's a strong paradox that in France very often people tend to be a bit self-derogatory. You know, they don't like themselves so much, are not so proud of what they are and what they're doing. And we just wanted to celebrate the opposite with these inspiring personalities.
And I would say that cuisine and a strong culinary tradition are one of the things France is best known and best loved for around the world. What else would you say about France's image in 2019 around the world?
Well, very often this image is connected with culture and with gastronomy, indeed. And we want also to promote a more dynamic image because we're doing so much in terms of science, in terms of innovation, in terms of economics, and very often that's not known. I remember a debate at the Senate a few years ago when we wanted to give the name of one of our institutes abroad. We wanted to give them the name of Victor Hugo. And I said, but you know, it's not exactly what we want to promote. We love Victor Hugo as a writer, but he's a 19th century writer. We've got to promote the France of nowadays with everything it's going, you know, doing in space, in research and technology. It's important to have it known as well. And obviously what we are doing is in conjunction with other countries because we can't do everything by ourselves. We want to promote peace, understanding and working together.
Now, you mentioned Victor Hugo and a reminder perhaps of when the eyes of the world were very much fixed on France recently, and that was the fire at the Notre Dame Cathedral, a terrible loss for people in Paris and around the world, as we saw. So many people were expressing their sorrow about that. The firefighters who helped put out that terrible fire were there last night, weren't they?
That's something our jury really wanted to do, to give them a special prize for their incredible achievement. Of course, we all remembered the terrible 2011 of September events. And these people were incredible because it's 600 people, these firemen, they all went, they knew their life was at stake. And if they hadn't had this tremendous courage, the cathedral would have collapsed. And we owe them so much because Notre Dame de Paris is obviously such a strong symbol of not only what is France, but what is our soul, our culture. And it's a symbol for people all over the world. I was in Iraq when it happened, and I cannot tell you how many people came to me to say, we're so sorry for what happened. We love Notre Dame. Even people who had never been to France, but they had that wonderful image of what it stood for.
It was a real moment of global solidarity with France, wasn't it?
Absolutely.
And another area,
so grateful.
Yeah, another area, of course, where France is indeed a world leader is in arts and culture. The Louvre Museum has exported works all around the world, of course. Was that talked about last night?
Yes, in terms of culture, we gave the great prize to Pierre Soulages, who is an incredible painter. He's the most well-known, the most renowned painter all over the world. And, you know, he's about to be 100. Unfortunately, he was supposed to come, but, you know, for health reasons, and there were slight worries, so he couldn't come. But it was very moving because it was the director of his museum in Rodez who received this prize, and we hope to go and see him and to give it to him personally as well. But you see, also in terms of cultures, there's a French language which is very important to us. And we gave the prize to an incredible lady who is from Tunis, and she's the leader, the chair of Paris Dauphine, which is an economics university in Tunis. She's working a lot for the French language, and she's such an example of dedication of the language, the values it carries, of its culture. And that was also extremely moving to see this young woman talking to us about how these values have helped her and achieve what she's achieved nowadays. So it was very moving indeed.
Sounds like it was a good evening for all.
Yes, it was.
Joëlle Garriaud-Maylam, thank you very much indeed for coming
Thank you
and talking
so
to us
much.
about that.